Okay, I have to be honest with you. When I first saw the topic for today, I almost groaned.
Oh, I get it.
We have spent literally years hearing about Jeffrey Epstein. You know, the politicians, the royals, the Hollywood celebrities. It feels like this endless, sordid loop of news that just leaves you feeling gross.
And cynical, yeah.
Yeah.
But this is different.
It is. When I looked at the actual stack of documents we're analyzing today, I realized we're pivoting. We are not talking about Prince Andrew or movie stars.
No, we're looking at a completely different power structure.
Uh-huh.
And arguably one that matters a whole lot more to the world we live in right now. We are looking at the titans of Silicon Valley.
Which is a massive shift. Usually these names, Gates, Musk, Hoffman, are in the headlines for, launching rockets or curing diseases or ruining social media.
Right.
But this specific analysis of the recent Department of Justice files, it puts them in a very different light. It's a document titled The Names of the Tech Elite That Appear Most Frequently in Epstein's Files. And the sheer volume of data is, well, it's a lot.
It is a lot. And it's a crucial pivot because it tells us something about how influence works. Epstein wasn't just, a star chaser. The data shows he was aggressively trying to weave himself into the fabric of science, technology, and venture capital.
He wanted to be a broker of ideas.
Exactly. Not just a broker of people.
But we have to be super careful with the numbers, right? Because I'm looking at the spreadsheet, and some of these file counts are in the thousands. I mean, Reid Hoffman has over 2,600 files. Bill Gates, over 2,500.
If those were meetings, they'd be living together.
Exactly.
And that is the most important caveat to start with. The source material is very, very specific about this. When it says 2,000 files, that does not mean 2,000 dinners.
Okay.
A file in this DOJ release is kind of a catch-all term. It could be an email sent, an email received, a flight log, a calendar invite.
So standard stuff.
But, and this is the kicker, it also includes duplicates and mentions of them in other people's files. So if Epstein emails his assistant, remind me to call Bill Gates, boom, that's a Gates file.
So it's a measure of Epstein's obsession as much as it is a real relationship.
It's administrative hoarding.
Yeah.
The source calls it a moving target. We are not here to say person A is guilty because they have a high score.
No, the mission is to look at the nature of the relationship. What were they actually talking about? Because when you dig in, it just seems to be a story about access.
Access, definitely, but also vanity.
Yeah.
And money. Epstein presented himself as this wealthy, mysterious patron of the sciences.
Yeah.
He was the guy who could fund the weird edge case research that, mainstream grants wouldn't touch.
And for a lot of these brilliant people in Silicon Valley, that was the bait.
That was the bait.
Well, let's look at who took it. And I was actually surprised by who was at the very top of this list. I really expected Gates or maybe someone flashier. But the name with the highest frequency, 2,658 files, is Reid Hoffman.
The co-founder of LinkedIn. Yeah.
It's a staggering number.
It is, but you have to contextualize it right away. Hoffman's connection isn't exactly new news. It's been discussed mostly in the context of fundraising for the MIT Media Lab. He's admitted he visited the island.
Right, but he maintains it was strictly for that fundraising campaign.
He does. But what these new files give us is the texture of that interaction. And there's one detail that I can't stop thinking about.
The note to self.
The Google it note, yes.
He literally wrote down, note to self. Google it before you go.
It sounds funny at first, right?
Yeah.
It's almost a joke. But when you peel it back, it's kind of disturbing.
I think so, too.
Here is one of the most connected, intelligent men in tech. The guy who built the platform we all use to vet professional connections. And his due diligence is a mental sticky note to Google it.
It speaks to that Silicon Valley bubble, doesn't it?
Totally. Their reality distortion field.
Yeah.
They're so used to people wanting things from them, so used to doors just opening, that I think they lose that street-smart instinct.
They assume if they're in the room must be safe.
It suggests this profound level of naivety, or maybe just arrogance. I'm Reid Hoffman. What could possibly go wrong?
And the files show it wasn't just a one-off trip. We see emails scheduling calls with Joy Ito, the former MIT Media Lab director who resigned over this. We see plans to visit the New Mexico ranch, the New York townhouse.
It was a sustained channel. But Hoffman is also unique because of how he's handling it now. There's a document in the files that Hoffman actually shared himself. It seems to be an internal FBI email or a summary.
This thing is fascinating. It's like a scorecard of Epstein's contacts.
Exactly. The authorities, or whoever wrote this, they categorized the names. They had positive case hits, which included heavy hitters like Bill Clinton, Larry Summers.
Right.
Then they had a category called salty information.
Which included Donald Trump and Prince Andrew. Salty is a polite way of putting it.
Very polite. But then there was the no-hit list, and that's where Reid Hoffman's name was.
So despite 2,600 files, investigators at the time put him in the nothing to see here pile.
Correct. And Hoffman pointed to that. On the file itself, he wrote notes like, release all the files and prosecute the abusers. He issued a really public apology back in 2019.
And he said, I helped repair his reputation and perpetuate injustice. For this, I am deeply sorry.
Which stands out. He's acknowledging the crime wasn't just doing something illegal, but providing the cover for Epstein to exist in polite society.
It's a level of self-reflection we don't really see from everyone else on this list.
Not at all.
Speaking of which, let's move to the second heavyweight, Bill Gates. 2,592 files. And in the documents, he's just big.
Big. It's efficient.
The timeline here is what trips me up. With Hoffman, you could maybe argue it was earlier, but the heavy contact with Gates is between 2011 and 2013.
And that's the critical detail. Epstein was a convicted sex offender by 2008. He'd served time. He was a registered offender. So the I didn't know defense just doesn't wash.
So why? Why is Bill Gates, the guy trying to eradicate polio, hanging out with this guy in 2013?
Well, the files suggest Epstein was positioning himself as an advisor, a geopolitical whisperer. We see calendar alerts for lunch at 1 p.m. with Bill Gates and Woody Allen.
Right. And Skype calls, photos. He was working hard to become indispensable to Gates's foundation.
He was. But then we get into the weird stuff, and I mean really weird. The new DOJ batch has these allegations that are, frankly, explosive.
But the source keeps warning us to read them with extreme caution.
We have to. These specific claims about Nobel Prizes and medical stuff, they come from emails Epstein appears to have written to himself, or drafts he never even sent.
Okay, let's unpack the Nobel Prize one. In July 2013, Epstein wrote a note claiming he helped Gates obtain the Nobel Peace Prize.
Which obviously didn't happen.
Right. So why write it? Is he delusional?
It's probably a mix of delusion and strategy. I mean, Epstein was a fabulist. He loved to inflate his own importance. But it also suggests he was building a narrative of, look what I did for you.
And then there's the medical claim. And I hesitate to even say it. It sounds like a soap opera plot.
It's grotesque.
Epstein drafted an email claiming Gates asked for antibiotics for a sexually transmitted disease, but, get this, to be administered secretly to his wife.
And we need to be very clear. A spokesperson for Gates called these claims absolutely absurd and completely false. There is zero evidence this ever happened.
So if it's a lie, what is the point of the document? Why does it exist?
Think about the timing. This is around 2013, 2014. Right when Gates reportedly stopped meeting with him, Epstein was being cut off. The analysis suggests that when Epstein felt his access slipping away, he started drafting these poisonous, defamatory narratives.
It's like a break in case of emergency blackmail kit.
Precisely. It shows the predatory nature of the whole relationship. He wasn't just a friend, he was collecting leverage. If you leave me, I have this. Even if this is a complete lie I made up, it's psychological warfare.
That's terrifying. It makes you realize that shaking hands with this guy was like stepping into a trap you didn't even know was there.
That is the perfect way to describe it.
Okay, let's pivot to someone who operates very differently in the Valley. Peter Thiel. 2,281 files.
Thiel is interesting because the dynamic shifts. With Gates, it was philanthropy. With Thiel, it feels like pure power networking and political strategy.
And shared secrets. There's a specific detail about the Gawker lawsuit. For listeners who don't remember, Peter Thiel secretly funded the lawsuit that bankrupted Gawker Media.
Because they had outed him years before. It was one of the biggest secrets in Silicon Valley.
And the files show that shortly after this became public, Epstein emails Thiel and writes, I would have gladly shared your expenses for the Gawker lawsuit.
That gives me chills. It's Epstein seeing a billionaire destroy a media outlet from the shadows and saying, hey, I love your work. Let me in on that.
It appeals to a certain worldview, doesn't it? The idea that great men operate behind the scenes, shaping history without the public knowing.
And Epstein thrived on that vibe. We see it in 2016, too, during the election. Thiel asks Epstein for his thoughts on the race. Epstein replies, many, and you should be closer. Your advice can be taken into account.
They even talk about using the Signal app for privacy. They knew they were playing a game that shouldn't be on the main server.
Right. It's conspiratorial.
But then, in the middle of all this high-stakes political chess, we get the diet sheet.
The diet sheet.
I know we've laughed about this, but on air, I find it genuinely baffling. Thiel's staff sent this list of dietary restrictions for a meeting, and it is so specific. Dairy, fruit, gluten, grains are allowed. But the proteins...
It's a very curated list.
Catfish, sashimi, scallops, sea urchin, squid, and then persimmon oysters and sweet shrimp.
Persimmon oysters.
Well, what does that even tell us? Why does that detail matter?
I think it matters because it illustrates this cognitive dissonance.
Yeah.
You have people entering a world that is allegedly built on the trafficking and abuse of young women, a house of horrors.
Right.
And the main concern of the guest is whether the oysters are the correct varietal. It's the banality of evil.
Yep.
It's the expectation that the world will bend to your specific, minute comforts, regardless of the moral context. Epstein didn't just offer girls. He offered a frictionless existence where your sweet shrimp just appeared. That creates a debt. It makes you comfortable.
And comfort makes you look the other way.
Exactly.
Let's look at another titan, maybe the loudest one, Elon Musk. 11,116 files. Now, Musk has been very vocal on X about this, throwing accusations around.
He has.
But what do the files actually say about him?
Well, contrary to all the internet rumors, the source material is very firm on this. There's no indication Musk actually visited the island or the residences.
So he didn't go, but he's in the files. Why?
Because he's a businessman. And Epstein was a potential customer.
A customer.
Look at the emails from 2012. Musk isn't asking for money. He's asking if Solar City, his solar company, could electrify Epstein's Caribbean island or the New Mexico ranch.
Hey, rich guy with an island needs solar panels.
Exactly. He even forwards the email to his cousin, Peter, treating it like a sales lead. It's transactional.
Now, he did express curiosity. He wrote an email calling the island the wildest party and asked about day-night dynamics. He asked about St. Bart's.
He was definitely circling the orbit, but he never landed. The records just stop at the inquiry stage.
So Musk himself has said, I had very little correspondence. Doubtful that I would be part of some egregious exploitation.
And the flight logs seem to back that up. He was a peripheral figure, someone Epstein wanted, and someone Musk thought he could sell to, but the connection never solidified.
Okay, so we have to talk about the Google guys, Larry Page and Sergey Brin, and what the source calls the ghosts. This section felt like a bit of a grab bag.
There's a theme, though. The theme is the sandbox.
Explain that.
Well, take Larry Page. He has about 300 files. We see the usual dinners. But then we see Page's pilot contacting Epstein's pilot about a Bell 407 helicopter. This is an entity called Air Ghislaine Inc., buying a helicopter for these operations.
Okay.
And most importantly, we see Epstein offering his New Mexico airstrip for Google to test internet streaming drones.
Wait, why would Google need Epstein's ranch for that? They're Google, they can buy their own ranch.
Regulation. At the time, testing commercial drones was a regulatory nightmare in the U.S. Epstein's Zorro Ranch was massive, remote, private. He was basically offering them a lawless zone.
A sandbox where they could bypass the red tape.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that is incredibly dark when you think about it. Come to my lawless ranch. You can test your drones, and I can do whatever I do.
It legitimizes the location. If Google is testing tech there, it can't be a criminal enterprise, right? It provides cover.
Mm-hmm.
And then you have the ghosts, Mark Zuckerberg and Jeff Bezos.
These are the one-way relationships. You see Epstein emailing at them. He gets an intro to Zuckerberg via Reid Hoffman, tries to set up a dinner, sends a follow-up saying keep the conversation going,
Yeah.
and crickets.
Zuckerberg ghosted him.
It appears so.
Mm-hmm.
And with Bezos, Epstein claimed to be at an after-movie party with him.
Mm-hmm.
But beyond Epstein telling people I was with Bezos, there's no evidence Bezos cared or even engaged.
It really paints Epstein as a desperate social climber at that level. He was a collector. If he was in the same room as Bezos, he mentally added Bezos to his collection.
Exactly. It didn't matter if the feeling was mutual.
So we've gone through the big names, Hoffman, Gates, Thiel, Musk, the Google guys. When you step back and look at this entire tech elite file, what is the story it tells? It feels different than the Hollywood story.
It is different. The Hollywood story was about glamour and parties. This story is about the blind spots of the intelligent. Epstein figured out that the smartest people in the room often have the biggest egos. They believe they're immune to manipulation because they are visionaries.
So he played to that.
Perfectly. He offered Gates a Nobel Prize. He offered Hoffman funding for the Media Lab. He offered Google a place to test drones. He offered Thiel's secret political alliances.
He customized the trap for each person.
He did.
And for some, he just offered really specific oysters.
He really did.
That brings me back to that image, the diet sheet. It haunts me more than the fake Nobel email.
Why is that?
Because it shows the machinery. We tend to think of monsters as chaotic. But this wasn't chaotic. It was administrative. It was scheduled. It was catered. There were secretaries typing up these lists and pilots coordinating helicopters while these horrific crimes were happening in the background.
It reminds us that these tech titans didn't walk into a dungeon. They walked into a luxury resort that mirrored their own lives. And that's why they stayed. That's where they came back.
Because it felt like home. And that is the most disturbing part of all. It wasn't the darkness that drew them in. It was the familiarity.
Well said.
That's it for this deep dive. It's a heavy one, but an important one. Stay curious, stay critical, and honestly, maybe do a little more than just Google it before you go.
Couldn't hurt.
See you next time.